of the most intriguing discoveries in modern science is the fact that there is nothing in this world that even approaches what might be called truly solid. We speak of solids, liquids, and gases, but these terms describe superficial rather than basic properties of matter. All matter, regardless of its state, is composed of invisible particles called atoms, which in turn are composed of other particles. The air we breathe, though invisible to us, is just as real as wood or metal, because it's made of the same fundamental particles. It is the arrangement of these particles and the forces that bind them together that give to a substance its special properties. If we bring a piece of steel close to a magnet, we say that the steel becomes magnetized. But what is it that actually happens? If we place the steel inside a coil of wire connected to a high-gain amplifier, and then bring the magnet close to the bar of steel, we can hear something that suggests movement inside the steel. Listen. We think of a piece of steel as being solid, and according to our definition, it is a solid. But the popular concept of what makes a solid is certainly a false one. This piece of steel, and any so-called solid substance on this earth, is almost entirely empty space. If we could eliminate the empty space in this piece of steel, all that would remain would be a tiny bit of matter, so small as to be invisible even with a high-power microscope. This concept of almost unlimited empty space within matter is comparatively new, but it is the very cornerstone of our knowledge in this atomic age. Atoms are not solid. Instead, they are tiny solar systems composed of infinitely small particles revolving at tremendous speeds and bound together by enormous forces. And like our solar system, atoms are almost entirely empty space. For the moment, let's forget the forces within the atom. Thinking only of the particles and the empty space around them, science knows no reason why I couldn't take this so-called solid steel bottle and just throw it right on through that wall. Except this, we've tried it and it hasn't worked. If I were to attempt to run through that wall right now, all I'd get for my trouble would be a good-sized lump on the head. But that which would prevent my body passing through the wall would not be a collision of particles, but rather a collision of forces, the same forces that make an atom bomb. And if it were not for these forces, my body could go freely back and forth through that wall, just as though it were not there. It is within the realm of scientific possibility that there could be two worlds coexistent, occupying the same part of space at the same moment of time, each world just as real as the other, with its mountains, valleys, rivers, trees, and people. And that one world could pass freely through the other world, neither world being conscious of the existence of the other world, if you grant just one thing. Atomic forces within the material substance of these two worlds that are not mutually interactive. What do we mean by this? Let's see. Here are two pieces of steel. Their appearance is quite similar, but a magnet will reveal a basic internal difference between the two pieces. This one, of course, is picked up, but this one is unaffected. This piece of steel is non-magnetic, stainless steel. Of course, we all know that other metals, such as brass or aluminum, are not affected by the magnet. But a ring made of aluminum is something else. It can be suspended in air by the electromagnetic force of what is actually a transformer. The ring being in effect a one-turn shorted secondary. A smaller ring will react even more violently. Here is another ring. This one made of a material we say is non-conductive. And it is completely unaffected. Here is another example. Several thousand watts of power were involved in that spark. If we replace the spark gap with a copper coil, the same power now flows through the coil. It's invisible, has no effect on many substances, but it can generate a lot of heat. Wood, paper, things that we think of as being quite inflammable are not affected at all. However, a piece of steel wool bursts into flame instantly. Did you ever fry an egg on a cold stove? It's no trick at all if you have the right equipment. This is a cold hot plate, and because it's cold, you can make it out of wood, if you like. Just be sure that there's a coil of wire inside and that you connect that coil to a high voltage alternating current source. The rest is easy. As long as we're being different, we'll use motor oil instead of Crisco. The egg fries very quickly, but the stove remains perfectly cold. In fact, if you wish to keep it handy, you can fry your egg on the morning newspaper. With a gadget like this, you can get up in the morning, sit on the stove, read the morning newspaper, and fry the eggs in your lap. Another example of the fact that physical forces can be quite selective in their effect. All of the examples which we have cited thus far have been in the physical realm, and of course have been limited by that fact. We can, however, cite examples that transcend the purely physical and clearly demonstrate the reality of these two worlds.
Okay, this is a 3/4 inch copper tube, 4 feet long, with a 1/2 inch steel ball bearing stuck to the outside. Inside the tube is a 1/2 inch diameter powerful neodymium magnet holding the ball bearing fast. It takes 8 seconds to fall straight down. 3, 2, 1, dropping. By contrast, here is the vertical fall with just the steel ball bearing through the tube. 3, 2, 1, release.
Anti-gravity machine. And look, it's not attracted. It's just weird stuff. Eddy currents. Could do this all day. It's so cool. Alright, see? Neodymium magnet, copper pipe, thick wall, type K. Special effects. But not special effects. This is actually happening.
Не понимаю. Теперь...
Hey everybody, this is Jamie. Just want to get another video posted real quick. One of the first comments was, will this thing levitate in the air by itself? So I put some tape on the copper windings to protect them. Got my needle ball here. The coil is energized. Put it in and you'll see it takes off. Chasing around the floor. You have to hold it. It's just a lot of magnetic energy. And you can see it. I'm going to pick it up off the table. You can see it just holding itself in midair right in the middle of the coil. And it's spinning rapidly, pretty much the same as you saw in the Rodent Coil FX 5 video. It's spinning just as fast. You don't really hear it because it's basically floating in midair. Let's see if I can show you guys this. I got to keep it straight. There it is. Can twist it a little bit, but yeah, it's floating in midair. Come here, you. Sorry, guys, about that. Yeah, pretty interesting. I've never seen any kind of effect like this before on any of my other coils. This is a Rodent 360 coil, so there's a considerable amount of magnetic field. It's somehow defying gravity. I guess that ball is I don't know. It's definitely levitating in the middle of the coil all by itself. There's nothing holding it up except the magnetic field, and it is spinning quite nicely, as you can see. So anyway, that's just wanted to show you guys this real quick. It's pretty cool.
We have the Rodent coil hooked up to, you want to steer it? No, and you gotta loosen it up here. There you go. And you can move it around. If you follow these over, the wires go over to here, which is along the way to powering this light here. It's a 60-watt incandescent bulb. Alright. Right here we have a magnet. The magnet is magnetized. This is a standard same size magnet, but it's magnetized from one end to the other. The other one here is magnetized through the center. So we cut it in half right here so you can see the side pointing to the black is north and the other side is south. Doesn't really matter, but
What happens when you hit the coil?
now when we hook up the coil, we're generating a magnetic field, a magnetic vortex in here, and what that does creates spin. If you can see it or not. There's nothing to do with that. But you can see clearly that it's spinning. Trying to keep up with the frequency. So hearing about this one, so we'll take that out of here. It's the north and south. Oh, where's that other north and south one that we have? The north with the N on it. That was the one. There it is. There it is. All right, here we got north marked. We can show that. And south is the other end. So I'm going to put that down there, and this time north-south. Whoa. Yep. We'll just try to get it to, I don't know if you can see it or not. Okay, let's try again. Whoa. Whoa, it doesn't want to go that way. You put it over here. Oh. Now what's interesting is if you change the, I'm going to take this transformer, I'm going to flip it around to go the other direction, the current, same effect.
In the laws of nature, there is nothing impossible except that the state of your mind makes it so. An SEG is a device that converts the energy around you, that's everywhere, into useful energy, what we call electricity.
The generator is a magnetic device that is totally magnetic. It is its own prime mover. It will self-start and continue to run, and as far as we know, we can say never stop.
We have something here that needs to be investigated, and really that's my role. I am a technical investigator of the SEG. The difference is I'm not willing to sit and just make an opinion. I'm going to make it happen.
The generator is approximately 2 foot in diameter by about 8 inches high, and it can be put in the home to power your home. It can be put in your automobile to power your automobile. Many of the third world countries have no means of generating electricity. These units could be put in there and power whole communities.
You really have to take a look at each individual component and function, and when you step back you say, wow, this thing works. There's too much for it to, there's too many facets involved not to be something viable.
For over 60 years, John Searle has tried to give to the world a new kind of energy system, one that would free mankind from the burdens of oil and fossil fuels.
Cleaning up this planet is going to be a big job. If we're going to get the climate back to what we want, a lot of work got to be done. But one thing is certain, you need energy. That's important.
So relatively speaking, it is positive here, negative out here. Air is ionized, current draws in the back of the center, and you have completed the circuit.
This is Amy, just one of an uncountable number of negatively charged electrons seeking a positive destination. She finds the positively charged neodymium core irresistible and enters the Searle converter device, becoming part of an enormous reservoir of electrons. Inside the neodymium, Amy meets Neo, an electron from the neodymium core. These electrons are drawn to the powerful magnetic flux line penetrating the 4 layers in the Searle design. They join together, forming a boson pair, as they spin around the magnetic force, releasing them on their pathway to freedom. As they enter the gate layer, they are compressed, feeling pressure to exit the system. At the same time, they are pulled and accelerated by the magnetic layer. Their energy continues to increase, racing through the emitter layer, joining trillions of other boson pairs that form the eddy current on the surface of plate 1. The boson pair is captured by the roller and blasted into the positively charged neodymium core of the 2nd stage plate, repeating the activity into the 3rd stage of the Searle device. With tremendous energy, Amy and Neo are hurled forcefully into standard coils, where they are collected in the same manner as any generator of electricity. Nothing is created or destroyed. The circuit is complete. As the rollers move, they provoke electrons to migrate through the 4 layers of the plate. From the neodymium core, through the gate layer, the magnetic layer, and the emitter or copper layer. This activity repeats through the rollers and the plates. Unlike conventional generators, the electrons will be moving at extremely high velocity. Conventional currents are slow currents, and they build up heat. The more current you draw, the more heat you get. This system is the opposite. The more current you draw, the colder it gets, for this reason. At the quantum level, the electrons are riding the magnetic field, not hitting the lattice of the atoms. The electrons find their path between atoms undisturbed, so they accelerate to higher and higher speeds.
The evidence is right here on this table. We'll be doing more demonstrations in the future. And remember, this plate don't have no voltage on it. Yet, some energy must come across here to this coil, so that the electrons come across the back of the roller to here. We have proved here that there's no electric to play by that ring to make those rollers, but it has to be the internal tension of the atom that makes them move. I'd like to show the mathematics we use. The law of the square says there are two prime states in everything in the universe, and they're opposites. Now what I got to do is make sure that each line comes to the same value. Now you can do it. Simple, isn't it? Yeah. Do you agree?
I agree.
And made the SEG a solid state, you know, as you can see. It is touching. How reliable is that?
Years running his home, it was like new, right? At the end,
That's what I'm
years.
saying. Because it has so many electrons, it doesn't allow for corrosion to take place.
Right.
This is the result of years of efforts, and it's just wonderful that we can finally get together and have an opportunity to actually build this kind of system. And just recently I was fortunate enough to test it out and find that things are working properly. Now initially there was some issue with the circuit breakers and so on, but those things have been resolved. You can see that a lot of the equipment that I had to accumulate over the years, and now we can integrate it as part of the monitoring and control for the magnetizer.
About 60% of the people want green. And the only reason they're saying no is because it's the back pocket. And it costs them more money.
And still, the scientists say it's impossible to do. Really? Well, we're going to show you. They're wrong.
Using common minerals, I'm able to capture the jitter of the zero-point energy that's a hot talk of many physicists around the world. And I'm able to create cells and structures similar to this one here that actually produce power for long periods of time. As you can see, we're getting a reading here of almost half an electron volt from this pile of crystals. And this is steady and has been tested up to a year's time and under stress tests also. So, which made me decide to then, of course, mount the same material in cylinders. And these cylinders here, of course, are various types of cylinders. One being an artillery shell or aluminum cylinders. I could take this one here and do a reading on him. And actually you cannot see that, but we'll try here. Okay, can we tell what we're getting? About half a volt, about half electron volt. And this guy here. Different cylinders, of course, there are different mixes in there, and I found that that some of the cylinders are not as powerful as this material here, or this very tiny one here. Actually, this has more power than this large artillery shell unit here. And what I want to do, of course, is to demonstrate it in the sense of it making actual power. And that means to turn a small motor. And that can be done. I've accomplished that many times. We're just taking a reading here on the very small one. 1 cubic inch of raw material from the earth. It's still powering for over a year. Basically, I want to use these as replacements for batteries, which I think I can achieve. And to demonstrate even more so, I'm looking for a hot cylinder, which I'll call a hot one. Will maybe be this one, which is a combination of material from this little cylinder back into here. Instead, actually, well, we can take a voltometer reading on him and see if he's up to par. We get 1.635 electron volts, so I think that he's lively enough to power this little motor. And we'll find out. So I'm holding this motor here. I attach a lead to the base. Get him out of the way. Okay, I'm attaching this to the base here. Another lead to the top, and it should spin, which it does. So yeah, basically, this kind of material powering motors. Of course, it's a very small motor at this time, but scaled up in larger amounts of material, can power up to several horsepower if needed. So that basically is sort of the secret to the energy crisis, in my opinion anyhow. It's using ordinary materials, non-toxic, that will interface with zero-point energy in space and time. Now we're taking a reading of one of the most powerful ones, the 1.635 volts, fluctuating a bit, but very steady and strong. And that was the one that powered the little motor. There's quite a host of natural, non-toxic minerals in there that activate. Much similar to the Moray valve of 1927, where Moray used natural minerals and got a lot of power in the range of about 5,000 watts usable power at 110 volts at 400 cycles per second. Long wire antenna. Using basically the same kind of principles. It's sort of a shake and bake recipe. It's extremely simple, ridiculously simple. And I do that. I simply just put it in, heat it up, shake it around, and let it crystallize. Once it's crystallized, then it captures and conforms to the zero-point energy that's around all of us. And actually I find the most simplest of recipes the most powerful, meaning this little fella here, where I tried to advance the field strength or the energy, however failing in a few of these cylinders, which are quite, as one would say, it would only put out millivolts. This one here is another powerhouse unit. Being smaller, actually, they tend to get stronger. Again, it's reading about similar to this pile here. But again, I should take a reading on this because he's quite interesting to a lot of people. Being the smallest of them, that would be approximately 1/3 of a volt. Always steady, always strong. I've used direct shorts on these connecting together for days at a time, and they still keep on pumping out energy. Some explanations, of course, can be found in solid-state physics in the old ham radio magazines when transistors were first coming out, and that will help the viewer to see some of the technology in those days, and for the future can see also the possibilities of what they call a space charge and junction barrier type of technologies and crystals. The interesting aspect of this technology is that these cells, crystalline cells, can be put in series and parallel to add up voltage and also add up amperage. So theoretically, if you had a room or a refrigerator full of them, you could power a lot of different types of appliances. You can have 110 volts if you wish, if you had them all in series, and then parallel for the amps. That's But also they cooperate with one another, going in series and parallel. This makes them quite practical. Plus, they're very cheap to make, and they are basically from just nature's own raw minerals.
Okay, I just wanted to give a quick update showing an experiment that I've had running for the last couple weeks. What I have here is a carbon rod. I've got a wire here just to make a connection on this end. I have, on top of that carbon rod, I put a layer of cotton. I then wrap magnesium ribbon over that. And finally, I wrap that in masking tape. Now, what's interesting about this, I never put these rods in the ground or in water. The only electrolyte I have working here is the air and the air humidity. So this little thing has just been lighting this LED continuously. It has not gotten dim in any way. I'm pretty excited about it. This ought to last a really, really long time, considering air is functioning as the electrolyte. It's great because it's the first time I've built something like this and not had to put it in the water or in the ground or something. So I plan on pursuing this a lot further. Okay, here's an update on my air batteries. I've continued to improve these. I've made a few changes to them. I will make a how to make the Laser Saber air battery video shortly with my latest improvements. But I've been testing this single air battery for the last 3 days. I've not put it in any water during that time. And it has been running this motor continuously for 3 days now without having to add any additional water or anything else. I'm really excited about that. It's really nice not to have to wet these down. So all this is an air battery, a soft iron core with a copper wire coil around that, and a reed switch. And like I say, it's been going for 3 days. With the success of that, I decided to try a 3-cell configuration, which I have here. I have it running through a Joule Thief and connected directly from that Joule Thief to a compact fluorescent bulb. So, quite exciting. I am really, really excited about these air batteries. Okay, unfortunately, I lost all the video clips from the assembly of these air batteries. But there's really nothing to them, so I'm just going to use this light here that they're powering to illustrate how they're made. This is a 3-inch by 10-inch carbon rod. And what I've done is I've put a layer between the carbon rod and the magnesium ribbon. That layer in these batteries is just paper towel, just household paper towel. 1 layer thickness. It wraps around the carbon rod. I put masking tape in a couple places to hold it, and then I start wrapping on my magnesium ribbon. Now it's important to make sure the magnesium ribbon never overlaps on itself. You want about an 1/8-inch gap between each wind. If it touches itself, you won't get as much current out of your air battery. Terminal, I've drilled into the center of the carbon rod and put a copper wire there to connect my positive terminal. Now these will run like my magnetic motor and stuff just straight off without doing anything to them, but I've figured out a way to really activate these. What you do is you mix salt into water, boil the salt into some water, and do an application on the paper towel of that. And that will really bring out the power in these cells. It doesn't seem to destroy the magnesium ribbon at any rapid rate at all that I've noticed.
Bernie here again. I've just made these batteries out of water and Miracle Grow in them. I've done the copper and zinc arrangement. I've done it a little bit different, if you can see. Obviously you've got copper on the right, zinc on the left, bolting them together with a bolt. Right. There's actually 2 batteries here. There's 14 pots there. That's producing around about 13 volts nearly. And then there's another row Same again, about 13 volts nearly. And I've wired them both in series, so they're giving exactly here, you can see the meter, 12.97 volts altogether, but the amperage should be quite high on this. Right, I mean, this is my 1 watt LED bulb, which you've seen before. It's not lit at the moment. Right, this is just one bank of batteries. This is. There we are. You can see it lit up. Now the voltmeter's just dropped down a little bit. Should drop down a bit more than that really. Right. So that's lit. Right, I'm going to connect the other bank of batteries now. Or should I say the other bank of pots. And you'll see the amperage builds up and the brightness goes brighter.
Hi guys, this is just moving on from the film canisters. I've decided to upgrade to the ice tray Mark II. And what I've done there is just put in 10-cent pieces, copper 10-cent pieces, zinc galvanized iron. Got tiny little neodymium magnets there to act as a link, a bridge there to, instead of a wire. I don't like using wires much. So it goes all the way around, comes back to here, copper positive and zinc negative. And I'm getting about 12 volts out of this baby. You can see there, oh, it's up to 14 volts now. And that's just from putting them in series, salt water, followed on top by equal parts spirit of salt and vinegar. Watered down, of course, both of those before they're mixed. And that's nothing surprising to me. I expected to get about 12 volts out of that. I'm getting 14. But what really I was interested in was raising the amperage, and that's done through adding the spirit of salt and the vinegar, it seems. And now, where I was pushing about 0.2 of a milliamp, now I'm getting 2.5, or say 2. It slowly drops there. You can see it dropping down. Now, that is what I was after. I just wanted to raise that milliamps, because the amps are where all the work's done. That's where the current is, and you can see the result there is pretty impressive. That's a LED light running off earth and a solution, and it's a natural solution, so look at that. Not bad at all. You could make them in series now again.
Now I want to entertain you for the last 6 minutes with something amazing. Something that is truly amazing. And it is a form of a battery that is mind-boggling. And the battery is right here on my left, on your right. It is a battery that produces an enormous potential difference. 10, 20 kilovolts. You see a schematic here on the transparency. You have a bucket of water here on the top, and you have glass, and the bucket of water is hiding behind here. It's not that because we hide it from you, but that's the best place to be. And you see plastic tubing coming down, and the water can run out on the right, and it can run out on the left. If it runs out here, there is some paint can, no top and no bottom. And you see this paint can here. It's completely open. There's a letter A. And there's another paint can on the right. There's a letter B. It's a conducting can. This is also a conducting can. And this water runs into another conducting trash can. And this water also runs into a conducting trash can. And now comes the key point. That this conductor here, A, is connected through a conducting wire with C, and the conductor B, the paint can, is connected with a conducting wire to this trash can D. You let the water run for a while, and you will see between these 2 points here, sparks. Even when the points are as far apart as, say, 5 millimeters, when you're talking about at least a potential difference of something like 10, 15,000 volts, you will see the sparks. And you wait, see another spark. And you wait, and you see another spark. So this is a power supply. And there must be energy coming from somewhere. And so problem 4.1, which you haven't seen yet on your force assignment, is asking you how this works. I will demonstrate it today, and I will come back to it later. The way it works is actually quite subtle, but I want you to think about it. It's a remarkable battery, a remarkable power supply. As the water starts running, I want to draw your attention to the fact that you can almost anticipate when the spark occurs, because the water at the very last is beginning to spread. It doesn't come out anymore just like a narrow cylinder, but it begins to spread. And then comes the spark. And then it goes back to running normally, and then slowly in time it will spread, and then comes the spark. So let us get it going. You have some light here. Marcos and Bill spent a lot of time getting this going. Marcos, do I have all my lights the way you want them? You're happy with that. There you see the two balls, which are really here. And let's first look at the sparks. So I will start the water running now. Let's just be patient a little bit. And let's see where we see in spark. Did you see one? Did you see the spark? Oh, you were not looking. Man, you're paying for this. Look at the two balls. Give it some time again. Have to charge up. I can already anticipate it's coming up. It's coming up. Yeah! Did you see it? 10, 15,000 volts. Let's give it a little bit more time, and then we'll take a look at the water flow, which I can see. I'm close. But we can make you see the water flow. Look again. It's coming up. Did you see it? I could see it coming up. I can make you listen by having my microphone near the water. You can hear this water running. Familiar sound to all of us. And now the sound changes. You hear change, and there's a spark. Once more. Just running. Spreading. Coming up. Yeah! Amazing, isn't it? I can make you see this water. Just stay there. We have 1.5 minutes left. So now you can see the water. You happy with the light, Marcos? You can improve on it. So look at the water. It was just spreading already. You can't see the spark and the water at the same time. So the water is running now normally. It's going to spread slowly. I will tell you when I see the spark here, but it's already, I can almost predict when it happens. The water is spreading now. Coming up shortly. Yeah, I saw the spark. And you immediately see the water go like this. I want you to think about it and explain this. This is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in my life.